Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting experts straight talk in your ear. These podcasts deliver great interviews with industry leaders and Zweig Group's 3 decades of invaluable research, leadership, management, marketing, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop personally and professionally, wherever you are.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I am here today with none other than our own Mark Zweig, chairman and founder of Zweig Group. And Mark and I have gotten together today to discuss a couple of his most recent articles in the Zweig Letter that I thought were definitely worth talking about a little bit further. And Mark, it's certainly good to have you on the podcast today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us. You recently wrote in a TZL article on June 25th about speed being everything. And I know how important it is for us to respond. And that's part of the culture here at Zweig Group is trying to respond in a timely and efficient manner with all matter of being, whether it's with internally with colleagues as well as externally with clients. But why don't you talk a little bit about just this whole idea of why speed is everything and why it's something that it's been a hallmark of the way that you've done consulting for years.
It's kind of like how I view paying my bills. You know, I was talking with my oldest daughter, Christy, the other day about this, and she said she got the same thing from me, and that is, I pay my bills the day I get them. Yeah. Or the next day, if you go home at night and you open the mailbox and the next day. But the reason is, I always feel that, if I can't afford to pay it now, I sure as heck am not going to be able to afford to pay it later. Right. So I like to get it out of the way. Right. And it's the same thing with basically everything. Yeah. It's, if you don't have time to do it now, what makes you think you'll have time later? It's just because you'll have other stuff you have to do. So you might as well get it done. And that applies to so many things. And then if you do, everything just goes faster. You're not holding up people, and, they like you better. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Yeah. It's kind of a simple idea, but it really starts with, and you see people in this business that we work in, particularly the AE industry, that are very analytical, and they can't make a decision because they need more information, or they just don't make a decision, period, because they hope they won't have to and maybe it'll go away. Yeah. Maybe somebody else will make the decision. I don't know what it is, but it's a problem. Yeah. And so that holds everybody up. It frustrates people inside the company, outside the company, whatever. Yeah. You just do it faster. Most of the time, your quality of your decision doesn't improve with more information being thrown in there. Yeah. So you'll never have enough information to make a decision. And what I see with leaders is they should have pre-made 90% of the decisions that they have to make. Yeah. They should know already how they're going to respond to something before it hits them. It's not like if there was any anticipation or thought applied to their business and what's likely to happen, they would have been able to figure out that this was something they were going to need to make a decision on, so the decision could already be made. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And when I think of specifically decision making, I always go back to one of the stories that you told me a long time ago about Jerry Allen making decisions, especially from an M&A standpoint.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to maybe just to kind of retell that story about, his ability just with a little bit of information to make a decision and move on it very quickly. Even maybe it surprised you. I don't know if you remember that one story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
you could call the guy and tell him about a company, and he would immediately get off the phone and call the CEO, and he'd be there the next day, and then the day after that he'd call you from the airport and tell me he bought it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, what? It was unbelievable how fast that guy could move. But he knew what he was trying to do. So if something met that test, then boom, it was done.
Yeah. I mean, they don't cut many CEOs like that today. It's just a lot of times I think you see, and we go into a lot of different firms, and sometimes they're hampered by the organization because there's so many people that need to be involved in a process that it just actually kills your ability to move quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a major problem. I know this is another area for you that's a real big issue, but like returning phone calls and emails. But what's your take on that with regard to speed? I know some people like to let things marinate when it comes to getting back to somebody on an issue or something like that, or responding with an email. But you never seem to wait to get back to people on things.
Yeah, well, I just people appreciate it. They don't want to be hung up. Sometimes it's a little bit annoying. Yesterday I had somebody in the firm that sent me something to look at, and then like an hour and a half later they're at my desk. I had other things I had to do. They're at my desk, and I said, look, I haven't had time to look at it. Well, you want me just to wait and we can do it together? No, I haven't had time to look at it yet. Give me a minute, okay, and then I'll look. I mean, the expectation just gets greater.
Yeah.
Greater and greater.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to get their job done. Nobody wants to be held up. And so, you can't underestimate how important it is to try to respond to people quickly.
Yeah.
They like it. They like it, and it keeps everything going. It's the grease that keeps the machine moving down the road.
Yeah. So what about specifically like lead follow-up and you get a request for your services or for your work and then a lot of times you could take forever to get back to them, maybe because you're looking for the right words to put in a proposal or something like that. What would you say to responding quicker, especially when it comes to lead follow-ups?
Everybody loves it. Again, I mean, the client assumes that you're going to do a better job right away.
Yeah. Than
somebody who doesn't respond quickly.
Yeah.
And it applies to both of my businesses. They're always shocked when they send you an email and 5 minutes later you call them back.
Right.
I'm just I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
Why aren't you used to that? Well, because everybody's doing the shit that they probably should have done 2 days ago now because they put that off. I mean, it's,
Right.
This is really what I'm saying. It's like, if you don't have time now, what makes you think you'll have time later?
Yeah.
So then everything shifts.
Yeah.
Everything's late. Everything's slow. Everything's, a slower response. So I've seen people lose jobs, because they didn't respond at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon.
Right.
It's really interesting to me too, as you move up the food chain in the hierarchy of the organization. Maybe a food chain's not a good term for that. That has a negative connotation. But as you move up the hierarchy, and you look at top people, one of the people we have coming to speak at our upcoming Hot Firm Conference and AE Industry Awards is the founder of Blinds.com.
Oh, okay.
And, one of the reasons, the reason is this guy, he sent an email on a Friday night around 6 or 6:30 and said, it was just a mass email, but if you had any questions about their products or comments as a customer to let them know. So I sent a comment back on how a particular valance fits on the blinds.
Yeah.
This guy responded to me immediately. It's Friday night. He's in Houston. Okay, we went back and forth till like 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night. And I thought, holy cow. So I looked this guy up, $200 million company, blinds.com. Okay,
and he's responding like that.
He's the founder, and he's got a history of successful management of growing enterprises, and that's how he's responding. And he's got a company that's selling blinds, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 order at a time, for a whole house, and that's the level of response you get out of the guy.
Yeah.
It really said something to me. Yeah. Like, this is why this guy's successful.
Exactly. Okay? Yeah, and it's so funny because you I guess probably because of your experience with them, you actually referred me to them, and then when I reached out to them to get some samples and some other stuff, they were so quick to get back to me, even though they aren't physically here in my neighborhood. So it was kind of impressive.
I just ordered another whole house full of blinds from them yesterday. It's a pain. Their site is really good though, but it's a major effort to order them because you have to have such precise measurements on everything.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of options, but the point is, that's the response this guy gives. $200 million company.
Yeah.
And you just see it all the time. I mean, the people are just like, well, I'll get to that later. My personal life's more important or whatever. Well, it just makes you feel like you've been deprioritized.
Yeah.
Customer really, or the client's not that important.
Yeah, that's true. And we understand that there's some balance involved. But,
of course.
I think that with the advent of technology today, there's almost no excuse for you not to get in touch with someone. And that kind of leads me to my next point, and that is this whole idea of information sharing, especially internally. I mean, obviously you need to share information with your clients when you have it, as soon as you get it, but especially internally as a project manager, if you go to a stakeholder or client meeting and you get a whole bunch of new data points, and then you don't take time as soon as that meeting's over to then communicate that to your project management team.
Just a couple years ago, I was at an architecture firm, an AE firm, I should say, and talking with them, doing some work with them, and it came up that the structural engineering department worked one weekend, all weekend, day and night, to hit a deadline, and it turns out that the deadline had been pushed off like a month, and nobody told them. And they were furious, let me tell you.
Yeah.
They were absolutely furious, only because the architect managing the job just didn't pass down the fact that the deadline had completely changed. Man. So they're thinking they got to work their ass off all weekend, and that's what they got for it. They weren't happy.
Excuse me. That happens more than you think.
Oh, it does.
I've told that story. I've shared that particular story with several people in a couple of our training programs, and we got multiple nods of heads of people that said, yeah, I've been in that same situation. So it's unfortunate, but you need to share that information early and often with as many people as possible, just to keep folks in the loop. And I've even learned about the benefits of doing that. You don't share in a timely manner at your own peril. So I certainly want to encourage you to think about that. How about when it comes time to dealing with criticism and or praise? Speed is of the essence. I do something amazing the first of the month, and then I hear back from you as a leader at the end of the month. That's really not acceptable, right?
Yeah. Well, it just everybody. It's so much more meaningful if it's done quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, again, it feels like it's not sincere, or you didn't really mean it, or a lot of bad thinking goes on between the time that you gave the praise or the criticism versus when you should have.
Yeah.
It could be harmful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was out looking at one of my jobs yesterday, and the carpenter had done had a very tricky stair rail system that we had to put in this old house built in the late 1800s, and he did a nice job on it. And, I thanked the guy, and, it just meant so much to him.
Yeah.
But if I'd have sat back like 3 weeks later and said, hey, you did a good job in that stair rail, that guy could have been pissed.
Yeah.
Like, he came in here so many times, he never once even noticed what I did.
Yeah, like it was an afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, you got to do it. And the same thing, you don't want people to make the same mistakes over and over.
No.
If you see them doing something that's stupid or easily avoided, then, of course, you need to, the sooner you can address it, the better off you are.
Well, yeah, and some people don't want to step on other people's toes, or they have a hard time delivering bad information or guidance like that. But you've never struggled with that. I think you've always been, for the most part.
I don't know. I do struggle with it. There are people do a million things I'd like to say something about, but I don't, because I don't want to just be a jerk.
Yeah.
All you'll do is give negative response then.
Yeah.
You can easily fall into that trap.
So there's a fine line.
Yeah, there's a fine. You can't say everything to everybody that you think they need to do differently.
Yeah.
It's just not, I don't think it's the way to be loved.
Yeah, that's true. But when you can legitimately help somebody, you should talk to them and
you have to.
Get that off your chest. And you talked about paying your bills earlier, but billing and collection, I know, speed is of the essence with that. And I know we don't play around here at Zweig Group, and when we tell other firms how we bill and when we bill, I think it's really important that people need to understand it, especially how we separate out our billing from our reimbursable expenses. And
that's one thing to do. I'm not sure that's as much of a panacea as some people think, but
yeah.
But it's one little ploy you can do. But the major thing that we do is we don't sit on bills for a long time.
Yeah.
There are lots of AE firms, they finish a job on the 2nd of the month. They don't bill it until the last day of the month.
Yeah.
Or they wait till the last day of the month, and then that gets billed like 7 days in the next month.
Yeah.
Now 35 days have elapsed for no reason.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we have a really, I think I just looked at our open book report. Our average collection period is still under 30 days.
Yeah, and the average collection period in the design industry is 77, according to our financial performance survey of 2018.
77 days. And if you look at it, you'll figure out why. I mean, people will say, well, you're not in the same business. There's some truth to that, but not 47 days worth.
Right, exactly.
The truth.
Yes.
Okay, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bad, sloppy, slow practices where people just don't act like they're concerned about getting the bill out and getting paid.
Yeah, and here's the scary thought: when you add in the figures for work in process or work in progress, the numbers can be astronomical. Well, I mean, according to our industry averages, the numbers go from 77 to 94 days.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
They're
3
just
months.
building up that
That's
whip.
3 months.
It's 3 months of expenses that you have to have in cash in order to pay your damn bills.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's a lot of money.
I know.
Cash or credit, I should say. But it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot. And just all you have simply, the math equation is simply to take your annual revenue and divide it by 365 days, and that's how much cash you need to operate each day.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, however many days it takes for you to get paid.
People don't understand that's a really simple math problem, isn't it?
It is. It is a simple math problem.
So I'm not very patient. I'm going to get my bills out immediately, and I'm going to get paid. This stuff of waiting 45 days till you even follow up is insane too. Why not follow up? Did you get the bill? When will it be processed for payment? Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Right away.
Exactly.
Let's get it paid. In the contracting world, it's so different. Everybody, it's like they send you a bill on Wednesday at noon, and Wednesday at 1 o'clock, they're calling you asking if they can pick up a check. I mean, you wouldn't believe the difference.
Yeah.
That sounds like an exaggeration. It's not.
It's not, yeah.
It is not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
They'll get that, and we're like, it's going to take us a couple days to get it into the system and get it paid sometimes.
Yeah.
But sometimes we just have to write them a check because they're so desperate, or they seem like they are. But they're still driving around in nice trucks. I mean, so they're not that desperate.
No, they're not hurting.
They're just not stupid. Then they're not overly patient like we are.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I tell people, on the general contracting side, my AR is 0. Because we get paid on demand. We bill every single week and we get paid.
Wow.
If we don't get paid, we stop.
Yeah.
We're not going to work another week and not get paid. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
We can't finance their business.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not going to finance their project. They're financing their project. We're not their bank.
Yeah.
It's just a totally different mentality.
It is, because I know what you deal with some general contractors. They won't even take a deposit. They'll take payment at the end, and they miss out on that opportunity to at least collect some of the money up front.
Yeah, we're not doing that in the contracting world, but in the AE world, we do.
Yeah.
And because there's a longer lag from the time you'll get paid. We bill monthly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's crazy. Yeah. Get your bills out, get paid.
Exactly. And do it quickly.
Yep.
So finally, you talked about the delivery of the final worked product.
Yeah.
So speed is essential in this area as well. Talk about that just for a second.
Well, because so many firms blow the deadline and don't get things done on time. When you get done early, think about how that differentiates you.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine what it's like for the client who has an expectation that, geez, these guys are never meet their deadline, or that everybody I deal with in the AE world is late or not meeting their deadlines. And I find this one company, not only did they do it, but they did it 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
Whoa. They must really be good.
Yeah.
I like them. Let's give them some more work.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So
just a differentiator.
Yeah, and that your ability to respond quickly will certainly open you up to being offered more work.
Absolutely.
It happens every time. So.
It does. Well, it really does.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. Speed is everything, as they say, and we do know now that Mark Zweig pays his bills as soon as he receives them. So that's always a good thing. I certainly learned a couple of things from you today with that, so I really appreciate you sharing it. Folks, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to check out the Zweig Letter podcast. We are going through a lot of changes here, and we're really thankful for you, our listening audience, to take time out to listen to us each and every week, and we really appreciate it. These summer months seem to go by quickly, and it just seems like we turn around and it's almost August. And your kids are ready to get back to school, but I'm sure a lot of you are out there enjoying the sun and getting out and getting some vacation and some much needed time away from the office. And I know that a lot of you are including the Zweig Letter podcast in your daily routine when you're doing that. And so we really appreciate that. Wanted to tell you about a couple of things coming up. Our Hot Firm Awards conference for the design industry is taking place on the 20th and 21st of September in Dallas, Texas. And you can find out more about that online at zweiggroup.com. And I also want to let you know that we've got a couple of gifts for you today. And one is a free subscription to the Zweig Letter. You can get what I think is the oldest running design industry newsletter publication. It's been run continuously since 1992, and it may not necessarily be the oldest. I think it's the best, but it's still, I feel very strongly about it. But it's run continuously since 92, and it's an amazing, 12-page newsletter that comes out weekly, 48 weeks a year. And Mark writes an amazing editorial in there each and every week, and he always has something new to say. And that's actually where we get some of the ideas for some of these podcasts that we do. And for those of you that have been listening to this podcast for a long time, you remember when Mark used to read his articles on the Zweig Letter podcast, but those days are gone, and we now just have simple conversations like the one today. So we appreciate you listening to that, but you can visit zweiggroup.com and just click on the Zweig Letter icon, and all you need to do is put your email address in, and we'll start sending you that digital subscription to the Zweig Letter free of charge. Comes out every Monday at noon, and there's always a fresh copy coming hot off the presses, so we encourage you to take advantage of that. Finally, I want to mention Civil Plus Structural magazine. Really want to encourage you to check that out. You can click on the Civil Plus Structural icon on the Zweig Letter, on the zweiggroup.com website, and you can subscribe right there for a digital subscription to Civil Plus Structural and check out what's happening on that side of the world. We really appreciate you guys. We thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Zweig Letter podcast. We'll be back next week with another fresh episode, and we hope you make it a great day. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter podcast episode. If you want more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about M&A, strategic planning, HR, and marketing your firm. Subscribe now to the digital version of the Zweig Letter free of charge. Just visit thezweigletter.com/subscribe and leave your email address. Your free subscription will begin immediately.